Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 347. Thank you for joining me today. I have a really good podcast for you today, still covering the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and I have some new information to share with you guys today. I have a really good podcast for you guys today. I want to start off talking about the 9/11 attacks that happened 24 years ago. And when the 9/11 attacks first happened, the emotions in this country were raw. We had just had the most brutal terrorist attack in the history of this country. Nearly 3,000 Americans killed on American soil. And nobody was really questioning the official story that the government was giving us about that attack in those early months while the emotions were fresh. Everything that happened after the 9/11 attacks. We had the anthrax attack as well, that people were getting anthrax in the mail and people were dying at the post offices and all of that. And people were afraid. And it was very unlikely that people were questioning anything that was coming from the government because people were depending on the government to protect us. You know, that we've just had two terrorist attacks, basically. We had the 9/11 attacks, and then we had the anthrax attacks, and people were questioning what's next, what's coming next. But and I was the same way. I mean, I wasn't questioning anything. I was more inclined to believe the official reports that were coming from the government. But about a year later, I was watching this documentary. I'm not going to name the documentary, but the documentary was making claims about different anomalies that took place in 9/11. Some of them, didn't have any effect on me. I wasn't really buying it, but there was one claim and one issue that from that documentary that stuck with me, just one. And I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain it out. I couldn't, refute what this documentary was saying about this one claim. And this one claim is what led me to believe that the whole story that the government was telling us was false. And that led me down the rabbit hole of doing intense, very in-depth investigations into 9/11, which I have done over the last 24 years. And it was just this one thing that just stuck with me. And it was about the one thing that stuck with me and that I couldn't refute was the plane flying into the Pentagon. Now you'll see this picture of the Pentagon here, and this is the area where the plane is supposedly had flown into the Pentagon. You can see how the roof of this section of the Pentagon has fallen down and collapsed. Well, earlier in the day, this roof part of the Pentagon, it didn't collapse until later that day, and then it collapsed, and this is what most people have seen, the collapsing roof and this damage. But the collapsing roof and this damage doesn't happen immediately. And this is something that happens later in the day. This is what the damage looked like before the roof collapsed. Here's another picture of what it looked like, what the Pentagon damage looked like before the roof collapsed. And you can see the glass here, this window pane is still intact. It's not broken. And this is what I couldn't get over. I couldn't get over the fact that a 757 Boeing jet had flown into the Pentagon and not shattered this window pane and not shattered this glass. I couldn't get over that. And I concluded that there's no way that a 757 Boeing jet had flown into the Pentagon because it would be impossible for a 757 Boeing jet to fly into the Pentagon and not shatter this glass here. And I couldn't get over that. And this was the one thing that led me to question the entire 9/11 story, the entire 9/11 narrative. Not only, the area where the front of the plane would have crashed into this area and shattered this glass, but the wingspan, along the wingspan, you can see that there are window panes that are still intact, like these here. You can see the window panes that are still intact. Now, these are blown out. And this is later in the evening after the roof has caved in. But before the roof falls and collapses early on in the day, you can see that these window panes are very much intact. And then along the where the wings would have flown into the building as well, there are window panes that are still intact. And I couldn't get over that. You can see these window panes that are still intact. And I concluded that there's no way that a 757 Boeing jet had flown into the Pentagon. And if this is a lie and this is not true, then I have to question the whole thing. I have to question the entire narrative. And this led me again down the rabbit hole. And today I can show you several different things that lead me to believe that the 9/11 story that they're telling us is absolutely false. I can go and show you multiple things, scientific proof that what they're telling us about 9/11 was absolutely false. Same thing with the Kennedy assassination. When I started looking into the Kennedy assassination, now I wasn't alive during the Kennedy assassination, but after my eyes were open to the lies that they told us about 9/11, I went on a deep dive and started looking into the Kennedy assassination. I've done deep research into the Kennedy assassination. This is from the Zapruder film. And there was one instance in the in the Kennedy assassination that led me to believe that this one thing that I saw, that, it opened my eyes to the entire narrative and led me down the rabbit hole and to investigate everything. And again, today I can tell you multiple anomalies, multiple reasons that I don't believe the official story that the Warren Commission gave us about the 9/11 or the Kennedy assassination, and that it was a lone shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald. I don't believe that. I believe it's completely ridiculous. I believe that there was a larger conspiracy and more conspirators. And there was just one thing that started me down the trail that I couldn't make sense of this one thing. And the one thing I'm going to show you from the Zapruder film here that is just obvious that this was a larger conspiracy and more conspirators. You'll see here as the limousine is coming down the road and Kennedy is shot from behind with the first shot. It's going to happen behind this sign. And when that happens, notice also the limousine that's following closely behind the limousine that Kennedy's in. And there's Secret Service agents that are riding on the back of the limousine that's behind the Kennedy and Connally limousine. And Kennedy's already shot. As soon as he passes this sign, he's already shot for the first time. He's holding his throat, where he is shot from behind through the throat. And after the first shot, the Secret Service agent that is driving the limousine, he should have hit the gas immediately to protect the president of the United States. He knows that there's shooting that's going on. The president's already hit. Governor Connolly's already hit. He knows this. And I'm going to show you how I know that the driver, his name is William Gere, William Gere is the driver of the limousine. He's a Secret Service agent. This is William Gere here. He's driving and he knows that Kennedy is already hit. Again, you can see the limousine that's following closely behind the Kennedy limousine. This Secret Service agent right here that's riding on the car behind the Kennedy limousine, his name is Clint Hill. This is Clint Hill. And Gere, he knows that Kennedy is hit, and to protect Kennedy, he should have pressed the gas and got the hell out of there immediately. He should have immediately pressed the gas, but he doesn't press the gas. He slows the limousine down. He slows the limousine down and he looks back and he waits for the fatal shot. He looks back. Now, there's a lot of people who claim that Greer is the one who shot Kennedy. I don't buy that Kennedy was shot by Bill Greer and that the Secret Service agent that was driving the limo turned around and shot Kennedy. I believe that Kennedy was shot from far off with a rifle from either the storm drain or the grassy knoll, but he was shot from far off. But Greer does know that Kennedy is shot the first time, and he doesn't hit the gas. He slows the limo down. He slows the limousine down to an almost a halt, to almost a standstill, and looks back and he waits for the fatal shot, and then he turns around and hits the gas. Take a look. You can see him. You can see his head turned around. Look at, you can see. He turns around. You can see his head turn around. Instead of hitting the gas, he's turned his head around and he's looking directly at Kennedy, waiting for the fatal shot. Here, we're going to listen to this, the guy that's speaking in this video. Take a listen.
As we go through these frames, I'm going to ask you to pay particular attention to Roy Kellerman, who sat next to Greer. Notice the glare on the top of Kellerman's head, which will diminish as he starts to duck and the angle changes.
So you can see the sun on Greer's forehead here, and you're going to see the sun. It's obvious that he's looking back and he's looking and waiting for the fatal shot. And the
reason that happens is that Kellerman's head falls into the shadow of the sun visor on his side of the car. By frame 300, the glare is almost gone, but it will return as he straightens back up.
You can see the glare on his forehead as he's looking back. He's looking back. He knows that Kennedy is shot for the first time. This is a Secret Service agent that he is supposed to protect the President of the United States. That's his job. That's his job. And he's looking back at the president, waiting for the fatal shot. He slows the car down to make it easier for the assassin to take the fatal shot. And then after Kennedy's head is blown off, he turns around and then hits the gas. And when I saw this for the first time,
okay, this is frame 312, 1/18th of a second before the terrible head explosion. It's probably the clearest and sharpest frame in the sequence, and it gives us an excellent look at Bill Greer. Okay, that is his left shoulder.
All right, so it's obvious that Bill Greer is looking back, waiting for the fatal shot. He slows the limo down. How do we know that he slows the limo down? Because Clint Hill, who is the Secret Service agent that is on the back of the car, he runs and he's able to go and jump on the back of the car, the Kennedy car from the limousine in the back. He's able to run and jump on the car. So the only way that he's able to run and jump on the car from the limousine in the back is if the limousine that Kennedy is in is brought to a standstill, is slowed down enough to come to a standstill that the Secret Service agent from behind is able to go and jump on the car. And that's what Clint Hill does. So it's obvious. It's obvious that at least Bill Greer was part of the conspiracy and part of the plot. You only need two people for there to be a conspiracy, but there was a lot more than two people. So this was the one thing that I could not let go. And that led me down the rabbit hole to do much more investigation into the Kennedy assassination. And as of today, with all the research that I've done, I believe that I know who was responsible for the plot to kill Kennedy, and that it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, and that what the Warren Commission told us was false, just like what the 9/11 Commission told us was false. And it was just this one thing that I could not let go. Well, in the Charlie Kirk murder that happened last week or on September 10th, I have seen the one thing that I cannot let go that leads me to believe that the official story that we are being told, that this Tyler Robinson guy is the one who assassinated Charlie Kirk from the building in front of him and shot him from the building in front. I don't believe that story anymore. And I've seen the one thing that, just like the 9/11 narrative with the window panes at the Pentagon, just like the Kennedy assassination with Bill Greer looking back, slowing down the limo, waiting for the final shot. I've seen the one thing that leads me to believe that we are being lied to about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Now, I'm not going to say what that one thing is. I don't want to get into that yet. I want to get more I want there to be more investigations, which are going to happen according to the FBI director, Kash Patel. I'm not the only one who is saying that more information needs to come out about what happened to Charlie Kirk, and that the official story may not be the real story. Even Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, is coming out now and saying that, we're looking into all the conspiracy theories. This was a post that he put out on his X page on Sunday. And Kash Patel says, as director of the FBI, I am committed to ensuring that the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. The full weight of America's law enforcement agencies are actively following the evidence that has emerged. But our efforts extend beyond the initial findings. Listen to this. This is the FBI director. But our efforts extend beyond the initial findings. That there's more to this than what we're being told in the initial story. We are examining every facet of the assassination. We are mercilessly investigating theories. What kind of theories, Kash Patel? What kind of theories are you investigating? Well, the possibility of accomplices. So if there's accomplices, the theories that he's investigated are conspiracy theories, because it only takes two people to make it a conspiracy. And if it wasn't Tyler Robinson by himself and there was a second person, then that makes it a conspiracy theory. We are mercilessly investigating theories and questions, including location from where the shot was taken. Now, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I have seen that leads me to believe that we're being lied to and that the official story is not true has to do with this question: the location from where the shot was taken. I've seen something that makes me question the location of where the shot was taken. The possibility of accomplices, the text message confessions, and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot of the bullet impact, which comes back to this: the location of where the shot was taken, the angle of the shot, and the bullet impact. Kash Patel says we're looking into all that. How the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed as political signals near Charlie at the time of the assassination, and visitors and the alleged shooter's residence, visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days led up to September 10th, 2025. This is coming from the director of the FBI. It says that we're looking into the conspiracy theories. We're looking into the location from where the shot was taken. We're looking into the angle of the shot and the impact of the bullet, which I've seen evidence that it didn't come from the front. I have some clips that I want to get started with today. And this is Fox News, and they're talking about that post from Kash Patel. Take a listen.
FBI Director Kash Patel saying that his agency is investigating all kinds of leads in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. He wrote this on X in part. We are meticulously investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message confession, and related conversations, Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the time of his assassination, and visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to September 10, 2025. Trey Gowdy's here. Trey, there's a lot in there. I mean, a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he's
right down to the people who rang or knocked the door. Go ahead.
Well, he's trying to do three things, at least three things here. Number one, death is different, Bill. I mean, you have to be meticulous, if not perfect, in a capital case. So every conceivable question that a jury may have, Kash and the prosecutors are now trying to answer. I mean, everything in a death penalty case is different. The standard of proof may be the same, but in reality, if you're going to put someone to death, the case needs to be perfect. The second thing he's trying to do is, even I think I'm a rational person. I struggle with whether or not anyone knew that he was planning on doing this before he did it. So
listen to Trey Gowdy. He says, even I. I mean, I consider myself a rational person. Now, for me, I didn't go down the road of conspiracies. Quite frankly, I discounted most of the conspiracies from the beginning. And you know, but even I'm a rational person. I can't deny what I see with my eyes, just like I can't deny that the window panes were still intact at the Pentagon after a 757 was supposed to have hit it. I can't deny that I'm watching the Secret Service agent driving Kennedy's limo look back, slow the limousine down, wait for the final shot before he turns around and hits the gas. I can't deny that. I'm a rational person, is what Trey Gowdy says.
The case needs to be perfect. The second thing he's trying to do is, even I think I'm a rational person. I struggle with whether or not anyone knew that he was planning on doing this before he did it. So Kash is also investigating people who may have aided and abetted or accomplices. And the third thing he's trying to do, which I don't think he's going to be able to, is tap down the conspiracies that are out there. Almost every major assassination we've had in our history, Bill, there's still someone out there who thinks some conspiracy. I mean, heck, there are people who think the earth is flat. So
yeah, that's ridiculous. That part's ridiculous, Trey, because there's very real questions that need to be answered. And just, I mean, how do you go from, you know, even I as a rational person struggle to there's people who think that the earth is flat. Now that part's ridiculous. All right. So let's get to, what's her name? Nancy Grace, here. And Nancy Grace is commenting on Kash Patel's message that he's investigating all these conspiracy theories, the angle of where the bullet came from and where the shot was taken from, accomplices, all the stuff. Take a listen to Nancy Mace.
Breaking news tonight. The FBI says the Charlie Kirk conspiracy theories are legit. That's the first time we've ever heard that from the government. Think about it. JFK, UFOs, it goes on and on and on. But tonight, Kash Patel says he is actually investigating the many, many conspiracy theories surrounding the murder of Charlie Kirk.
All right. And then, so this is the panel on the Nancy Grace show. they get into a little bit about this. Take a listen.
You know, I've never heard the government even acknowledge conspiracy theories, much less state that they will be investigated. With me, an all-star panel to make sense of what we are learning tonight in the Charlie Kirk shooting. Straight out to Victoria Churchill joining us from Washington, U.S. political reporter, dailymail.com. Victoria, what is Patel saying?
I think Director Patel is saying that he wants to explore everything and anything connected to this, but this should come as no surprise because Patel considered Kirk a close friend, a ally in the MAGA movement and the greater conservative movement. But I also do want to point out that Director Patel and the FBI as a whole maybe have not necessarily been at the forefront of this investigation, despite what they have said.
This is very important what she just says there, that the FBI has not been at the forefront of this investigation. The FBI has not taken charge of this investigation. The authorities in Utah, it's their investigation. The authorities in Utah are running it. This is not being ran by the FBI, and that's very important.
I do want to point out that Director Patel and the FBI as a whole maybe have not necessarily been at the forefront of this investigation, despite what they have said, because, of course, Robinson was turned in by his own father. There was, I believe...
Hold on, little lady. Whoa. They had the suspect in custody within 33 hours.
33.
Take a look at your crime stats. That rarely happens. So, you know, a lot was made, Victoria Churchill, of the arrest of two individuals, one claiming, I did it. Of course they arrested him.
All right, so the guy that she's talking about that claimed I did it is this guy. His name is George Zinn. And I want you to watch this video. This is immediately after the shooting happens, and you're going to see George. Everybody else is ducking. Everybody else is running. I want you to watch and see what this guy, George Zinn, does. And he's the initial old man that is arrested who claims that I did it. Okay? Watch this video. This is George Zinn right here in the center. He stands up while everyone else is ducking and running. He stands up, but he not only stands up, he's wearing a white hat. He takes the white hat off of his head and he's waving the white hat in the air, screaming, I did it. George Zinn is right here. It's kind of blurry, but watch what he does. Takes the hat off, waves it in the air. He's waving it in the air, waving his hat in the air. Everybody else is running, and you see George Zinn walking up with the hat, waving the hat. I did it. I did it. George Zinn is waving his hat and saying, I did it. Here's another. He walks all the way up to where the shooting happened, and he's got his hat in his hand, and he's saying, I did it. I did it. This is George Zinn. Waving his hat. I did it. So, of course, he's arrested, and that's who Nancy Grace is making reference to. Is this guy waving his hat, George Zinn, saying, I did it. He admitted to it immediately. And he's in the crowd there, and then they arrest him. He's got his hat in his hand there. He says, I did it. But he didn't do it. He wasn't the shooter. So that's who they're talking about here is George Zinn.
So, you know, a lot was made, Victoria Churchill, of the arrest of two individuals, one claiming, I did it. Of course they arrested him. He was cleared. Then another. So explain to me your reasoning.
So the first individual is somebody who I have heard from people that have actually been active in Utah politics, conservative politics in particular in Utah, that this is somebody that is a known agitator. And so I think there was no surprise that he was there. But he also went in for questioning. But again, this is somebody that didn't like conservatives. So maybe he wanted to claim for some crazy reason. I don't know why he would want to do this, but he possibly wanted to claim.
For some crazy reason, I don't know why he would do this. Yeah. And it's crazy for sure.
Conservative politics in particular in Utah, that this is somebody that is a known agitator. And so I think there was no surprise that he was there. But he also went in for questioning. But again, this is somebody that didn't like conservatives. So maybe he wanted to claim for some crazy reason. I don't know why he would want to do this, but he possibly wanted to claim responsibility for this. But again, Robinson was turned in by his own father. So at least at this point, we don't know how close the FBI would have been to finding him if he was not submitted by his own father to the authorities.
That's a very important point. Very important point that she's making there is that the FBI, Kash Patel and the FBI, that they're not running this investigation. They have not taken, now they could if they want to. The FBI can come in and take control of the entire investigation, but they haven't done that. They haven't taken control of the investigation. That they are allowing the authorities in Utah to run the investigation. And now the FBI is coming in and they are assisting in the investigation and doing backup investigation is what Patel says. But and that's a very important point that you need to understand, is that the FBI is not running the investigation, that the authorities there in Utah are running the investigation. All right, let's listen to Kash Patel in his own words. This is an interview that he did last week. Take a listen.
Did anyone in the crowd or anywhere else assist in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? In other words, is there any evidence to suggest that the shooter might have had help?
As I've said from the beginning, this is an extensive and exhaustive investigation, and I can only speak from the FBI's perspective that is still ongoing. We are still triaging voluminous amounts of data. We're still interrogating numerous witnesses, and we're going into devices such as cell phones and laptops and extracting data. And so that's the expertise of the FBI that we're bringing and working with our state and local partners. And as we get information that is of value, we turn it over immediately to the prosecutorial authorities for them to make their decision.
Okay, why hasn't Lance Twiggs, the boyfriend, been arrested? Don't the text messages prove that he knew that Tyler Robinson assassinated Charlie Kirk and then he did not turn him in? Why hasn't he been arrested?
Again, the charging decisions will be made by the prosecuting authorities in the state of Utah.
So listen to what he's saying. So he's asking, he says, why hasn't the transgender lover been arrested? It's obvious that he was an accomplice. I mean, there's people showing up to their house afterwards, and there's all kinds of information. Now, the Twiggs guy, the transgender lover, has disappeared. Okay? He's disappeared. And where is Lance Twiggs? Kirk's assassin's transgender lover has vanished. He's vanished. He's disappeared. And what Kash Patel is saying here is that we're not running the investigation. The reporter here is asking, he says, why hasn't Twiggs been arrested yet? And Patel says that we're not running the investigation. It's not up to us to arrest him. If the FBI comes in and takes over the investigation and we start prosecuting people federally, then we may make the decision to go and arrest Twiggs, find him wherever he is. He's vanished now. But the authorities in Utah are running the investigation. We're just assisting them, and they are the ones who make the decision of who they're going to arrest, and they've made the decision not to arrest Twiggs. That's what Patel is saying here.
And then he did not turn him in. Why hasn't he been arrested?
Again, the charging decisions will be made by the prosecuting authorities in the state of Utah. And so we will leave those decisions to them. We are working 24/7 to provide all the evidence we can to them in a timely fashion. That's why we were on the scene almost immediately. And that's why we've been flying back and forth, not just personnel, but also DNA matters. And also these devices that you speak to. Thankfully, the FBI has regional centers scattered across the country, and we're able to exploit these devices. And that's why you have the text messages. And the text messages speak for themselves, but we're still going. We have more work to do.
Okay, and I know, Mr. Director, that you knew Charlie well, so this hits personally as well, happening just 8 days ago. Let's talk about the text messages. Does the FBI believe that they could have been, like a pre-planned setup to hide any involvement?
I said the text messages didn't seem authentic from the beginning. The text message seemed like a script or something like that. I said from the beginning that didn't seem like it was on the up and up.
Let's talk.
But I was apprehensive. This is what I want you to get, that I didn't immediately go down this road of conspiracy and not believing the official story. It took me, and I've been seeing all the conspiracies and looking at them and consuming them, but it took for me to see the one thing that I saw recently over the last a few days that has led me to believe that nope, we're not getting the truth. Nope. There's more to this story than just this guy getting on the roof and upset that Charlie Kirk was saying things about his transgender lover. There's more people that were involved in this. Now, I'm not ready to go down the road that it was Israel, and we're going to get into that here in a moment. But I didn't believe the text messages from the beginning.
Talk about the text messages. Does the FBI believe that they could have been, like a pre-planned setup to hide any involvement that Lance might have had in planning this assassination?
Now that the state case has been brought and the charges have been alleged, I have to withhold any sort of stylization of the evidence. And because there's more evidence coming in literally every single day as we interrogate witnesses who knew these individuals and who knew the suspect and the family members as well, we're getting more and more information. And those are critical pieces of information that we have to hold in the evidentiary chain of command so that prosecutors can use it at trial. The worst thing that we can have happen is if we mishandle evidence and then they cannot use it at trial. That would be an injustice to Charlie Kirk.
So, okay, again, there's more to this story that we're not being told. And there seems to be a conspiracy here. There seems to be, we're not being told everything, and I don't really want to get into it and talk about what I've seen that proves to me that the story that they're telling us is a lie. But I'm convinced now, just like the window panes in the 9/11 story, just like the William Greer looking back, waiting for the fatal shot, not hitting the gas, not getting Kennedy out of there. I've seen the one thing that leads me to believe that there's more to this story and that there's a grander conspiracy. Now, the Israel part. I believe that there's something very dark and sinister going on, and it is bigger than Israel. It's bigger than just saying that the Jews did it. I played the clip of Charlie Kirk in the last podcast saying that blaming the Jews for everything. I don't believe that there's people who believe that the Jews did 9/11. I don't believe the Jews did 9/11. It would be impossible for the Jews to do all of that. Now, people talk about the Jews that were arrested, the 5 guys that were dancing after the towers fell, or after the planes flew into the towers, and that was proof that it was Mossad and the Jews. No, I don't believe that the Jews could have gotten the Bush administration to stand down and to and everything that is involved, all the nuances that are involved. I don't believe that the Jews were responsible. Same thing with the Kennedy assassination. I don't believe that the Jews were responsible for the Kennedy assassination and everything that went on in that assassination. And just like with the Charlie Kirk situation, I don't believe that it's the Jews. But there's a lot of people that believe that it's the Jews. And I had meant to get into this podcast. I'm going to do a series of podcasts, and we'll probably get into a little bit of it at the end of today's podcast. But we're going to pick it back up on Monday, and I'm going to do a series of podcasts talking about the Jews. We're going to get into Jewish history, and I'm going to get into the history of the Jews and bring it all the way up until today and in the present day of Israel and the current war between Israel and Gaza. I'm going to do a series of podcasts, and I can't wait. We're going to do a deep dive into this. But there's a lot of people who believe that that it was the Jews that killed Charlie Kirk, and they killed Charlie Kirk because he was questioning if there was a stand down on the October 7 attacks, and he was questioning Netanyahu. There's videos of him complaining about accusations of anti-Semitism, accusing him of anti-Semitism and all that. And we're going to get into all of that. But back to Tucker Carlson's statements that he made at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, where he makes the statement that Charlie Kirk's killing reminded him of Jesus being killed, and saying that the Jews conspired to kill Jesus. And there were a lot of people that accused Tucker Carlson of being anti-Semitic and saying that the Jews conspired to kill Jesus, and that he was making an accusation that the Jews were responsible for killing Charlie Kirk. This is bigger than the Jews, people. This is a spiritual issue, and it is a very dark and sinister issue. I'm not saying that there weren't Jews involved in this sinister plan, but it's not. You can't blame all the Jews and say that all the Jews are responsible for everything, like what Charlie Kirk says in the clip that I played in the last podcast, that the Jews are responsible for everything, that they're responsible for 9/11, that they're responsible for the Kennedy assassination. No, there are people that are of Jewish ancestry and who are Jews that are part of this very dark, sinister plot, which we'll get into. But they're not the only ones. There's black people that are involved in this. There's white people that are involved in this. There's a very sinister, dark, occultish force on this planet. And yeah, maybe the Jews, are involved in it, but they're not all responsible for it. And we're going to get into that in a future podcast. But Tucker Carlson was accused of blaming the Jews for Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I want you to listen to this guy. He is a Jewish influencer by the name, he goes by Red, White, and Blue Jew, and he accuses Tucker Carlson of blood libel for claiming that that the Jews conspired to kill Jesus. I want you to listen to what he says here.
Leshana Tova Umetuka, to a sweet and happy new year. It's the Red, White, and Blue Jew, aka Jake Donnelly, and today, before we get to Rosh Hashanah, before we get to the Jewish New Year, if you celebrate it, even if you don't celebrate it, I have to talk about the Charlie Kirk Memorial. Yesterday morning, I thought this video was going to be all about how, Albanese, Starmer, Carney, and Macron decided to recognize the state of Palestine, even though there is no such state, even though there is no governing authority, and even though Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian Authority, which oversees Judea and Samaria, aka the West Bank, immediately asked for reparations up to 2 trillion euros. That's what I thought I was going to talk about. But then the Charlie Kirk Memorial happened in Arizona, and Tucker Carlson decided that he was going to make it all about himself and the Jews. He tossed a blasphemous blood libel, not just a blasphemous blood libel, but the original blasphemous blood libel at the memorial of Charlie Kirk, talking about the hummus eaters. I wonder what that's code for, Tucker. Like, pathetic. Just coming up with that phrase in of itself and then cackling, or however the fuck he does his little laugh. Dude, this is why people like me, through a lot of condemnation and vilification, have continued to preach the line that while Charlie Kirk was a good man and TPUSA does good, if not great work, his platforming of Tucker Carlson wasn't just inappropriate, it wasn't just wrong, it was evil. It crossed a line because Tucker Carlson continues to cross lines. He will not bypass any opportunity to lob blood libels at Jews.
All right, so nothing that Tucker Carlson said was inaccurate according to the Bible, and it was not a blood libel, but that's the accusation that this guy and many other Jews have made about Tucker Carlson, and says that Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic. Encyclopedia Britannica, the guy we were just listening to, said that Tucker Carlson tossed the original blood libel, that the Jews killed Jesus. Well, that's not the original blood libel. That's not what blood libel is. You can see Encyclopedia Britannica right here. Blood libel is anti-Semitic accusation that Jews ritually sacrifice Christian children at Passover to obtain blood for unleavened bread. The earliest distinct instance of the blood libel emerged in the medieval Europe in the 12th century with the case of the murder of an English boy, William of Norwich. Despite the fundamental absurdity of the accusation, it ignores, for instance, the implicit prohibition of Judaism against the consumption of blood. Absolutely. It's in the Torah that Jews are not supposed to eat. That's why they can't even eat medium rare stakes because it still has blood in it. So it's absolutely correct. But this is what blood libel is. It has nothing to do with claiming that the Jews conspired to kill Jesus, which is what Tucker Carlson said. He didn't say that the Jews killed Jesus. He said that they conspired to kill him. And that's what the Bible says. The Bible says Jesus said that himself, that they conspired to kill him, that they were going to conspire to kill him. And again, going back to what Charlie Kirk said when he's questioned by a Jewish kid that questioned him about the accusations that the Jews are responsible for all of the world's problems. The Jews did 9/11. The Jews killed Kennedy, and now the Jews killed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk says that that is sloppy to blame all the Jews. No one is going to be able to accuse me of anti-Semitism because I'm not blaming all the Jews. I love Jews. I love Jews, and especially Messianic religious Jews. I love them, and I know that Jews, just like Charlie Kirk says in this video, that there's all kinds of different Jews. There's Jews that are occultists, Kabbalists, that believe in Kabbalah. There's Jews that are secular, that are atheists, that don't believe in anything. There's Messianic Jews. There is Orthodox Jews. There's all kinds of different Jews, and this is how you get in trouble. And they're able to lob the accusations of anti-Semitism on you is because you go around blaming the Jews for everything. Oh, that's ridiculous. I don't blame the Jews for everything, but there are some very sinister Jews. There are some some Jews that are into some dark stuff, and some Jews politically in Israel that even the population there in Israel are against Netanyahu, and that have been out demonstrating against Netanyahu and the hardliners there in Israel. So making a distinction between the Jews and lumping all the Jews into this category, and the Jews that are into some sinister stuff and that are the hardliners there in Israel, you have to be able to make that distinction. And we're going to get into that in the next podcast. Almost done today, but we're going to pick this up. We're going to talk about the Jews, get into some Jewish history on Monday. And like I said, it's going to be a series of podcasts. And I want to start talking about this part today, and then we'll pick this up on Monday. But this artist, he is a musical artist. He goes by the name Modest Yahoo, and his name, Matthew Paul Miller, is known by the stage name Modest Yahoo, is an American singer, rapper, beatboxer, and musician, known for blending spiritual themes with reggae, rock, hip hop, beatboxing sounds. Modest Yahoo's 2005 single, "A King Without a Crown," was a top 40 hit in the United States. So this song, "A King Without a Crown" from Modest Yahoo, you're going to listen to a little bit of it. This is a performance that Modest Yahoo did on the David Letterman Show. Take a listen.
This is a critically acclaimed reggae singer whose current CD is entitled Live at Stubbs. Please welcome Modest Yahoo.
You're all that I need. Each and every day I pray to get to know you. Please wanna be close to you. Yes, I'm so hungry, like water for my soul when it gets thirsty. Without you, there's no me or the air that I breathe. Sometimes the world is dark, just can't see. With the demons all around to bring me down to negativity. But I believe, yes, I believe. I said that I believe. I stand amount to feed won't be.
All right, I'm going to fast forward because I don't want to get a hit. But Modest Yahoo is a Hasidic Jew, and this is his hit song, "King Without a Crown." I want you to listen to the hook.
Light unto the heights, crown heights, yeah. All of my heart and all of my soul and all of my might. And what's this feeling, man? I will rip a hole in the ceiling. Giving myself to you now from the essence of my being, and I sing to my God. Songs of love and healing. I want Mashiach now.
I want Mashiach now. That's the hook of his song, of his hit song, "King Without a Crown." I want Mashiach now. Who is Mashiach? What is Mashiach? What is Modest Yahoo talking about when he's talking about in his hit song, "I want Mashiach now"? Well, I want you to listen to this last video, and it explains what Mashiach is And then we're going to end today's podcast and pick this up in the next podcast. Mashiach.
For over 2,000 years, the Jewish people have lived with a burning expectation that one day Moshiach, the Messiah, will come.
So this video,
vague idea,
this video says that for over 2,000 years, it's been longer than 2,000 years, much longer than 2,000 years that the Jewish people have been waiting for Mashiach. And you have a hip hop artist in 2025 or back then when this album came out in 2015 saying, I want Mashiach, that the Jews are still anticipating Mashiach. This video gets into it.
2,000 years, the Jewish people have lived with a burning expectation that one day Moshiach, the Messiah, will come, not as a vague idea, but as a concrete hope woven into daily prayers, traditions, and rituals. Because in nearly every synagogue service around the world, Jews pray, Ani ma'amin ba'emunah shelema b'viat hamashiach. I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah. Words rooted in Maimonides' 13 Principles of Faith, showing that this belief is not optional, but foundational to Jewish identity.
It's foundational. The belief in the coming Mashiach is foundational to Jewish belief.
This belief is not optional, but foundational to Jewish identity. Yet, unlike the Christian understanding that the Messiah has already come in Jesus of Nazareth, Jews today still await him, convinced that his mission will be to bring political and spiritual redemption to Israel, and through Israel, to the world. They expect Moshiach to be a flesh and blood descendant of King David, a leader of extraordinary wisdom, justice, and piety who will rebuild the temple in Jerusalem.
So there's certain things that Mashiach has to be. He has to be so there's 12 tribes of Israel, and Mashiach has to be from the tribe of Judah. He has to be a descendant from David. He has to be born in Bethlehem, which is the city of David, where David was born. That's why when Jesus is from Nazareth, Jesus and his family, that's why the story is that they have to travel back to Bethlehem to be counted in the census. And that's where Jesus is born, in Bethlehem, because that the whole reason that they have to go back to Bethlehem is to be counted in the census. And that's where Jesus is born. So all these things, and there's a list of things that have to be true for Mashiach to be Mashiach. It has to be from the tribe of Judah, has to be a descendant of David, has to be born in Bethlehem, has to be born of a virgin. All of these are true.
Yeah, to be a flesh and blood descendant of King David, a leader of extraordinary wisdom, justice, and piety who will rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, gather the Jewish exiles back to the land of Israel, restore Torah observance in its fullness, and usher in an era of worldwide peace and divine knowledge, what Isaiah described as the time when the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Rabbis throughout history have debated the details, some insisting that Moshiach will arrive suddenly if Israel merits it through righteousness, others teaching that he will come only in times of great suffering, when the world seems darkest, because Jewish thought recognizes the principle of Shevle Moshiach, the birth pangs of Messiah, tribulations that precede his arrival, paralleling what Jesus himself described in Matthew 24 as wars, famines, and earthquakes before his return. But within Judaism, there is also a deep sense of paradox. Some rabbis speak of two figures, Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, one who will suffer and die in battle against Israel's enemies. Still, for most Jewish communities, the focus is less on theology and more on hope. The hope that the centuries of exile, pogroms, Holocaust, and persecution will one day be redeemed when the Messiah arrives to vindicate Israel before the nations. It is this hope that explains why, during every Passover Seder, Jews leave an empty chair and cup for Elijah, the prophet believed to precede Messiah's arrival, fulfilling Malachi 4:5, and why they pray daily, "May he establish his kingdom speedily in our days, and let us say, Amen." And so, when Christians read Jewish prayers for Moshiach, they cannot help but see Jesus written between every line.
Absolutely. You cannot see, if for Christians, and I don't understand why Jews can't see this, but for Christians, the prophecies and the promises of Mashiach, Jesus fulfills them all.
Amen. And so, when Christians read Jewish prayers for Moshiach, they cannot help but see Jesus written between every line. The one who came, the one who was pierced, the one who rose, and the one who promised to return. But for now, the Jewish people remain in expectation, waiting for what they believe is still future. And it is this very tension between the hope of Israel and the fulfillment in Christ that makes the question of the Messiah the most important conversation in the world.
Absolutely.
When we examine the Jewish belief in the Messiah, one of the greatest tensions we encounter is the question of scope. Is the Messiah meant solely for Israel, the chosen people, or is he destined to be a savior for the entire world? And this debate is not modern, but deeply rooted in ancient prophecy, rabbinic teaching, and even mystical expectation. The Hebrew prophets present a dual image. On one hand, the Messiah as the son of David, a warrior king who restores Israel, defeats her enemies, and rebuilds the temple. But on the other hand, a figure who will be a light to the Gentiles. Isaiah 49:6, bringing justice and peace to every nation. This duality produces a paradox, and many rabbis resolved it by suggesting two messiahs, Messiah ben David, the conquering king, and Messiah ben Joseph, the suffering servant who dies in battle, a figure whose image some Christians immediately link with Jesus, while Jews see it as a different archetype that prepares the way for the true son of David. In Jewish thought, Messiah ben Joseph dies, paving the way for Messiah ben David to reign. While in Christian thought, Jesus fulfills both roles in one person, dying as the suffering servant and returning as the victorious king. Yet for Jews, these roles remain split and incomplete, and this is why even today in synagogues and seminaries, the conversation continues. Must the Messiah be uniquely Jewish in his identity, restoring the covenant promises and the land? Or does his mission inevitably extend outward, embracing the Gentile nations in a covenant of peace? In the wake of exile, persecution, and the Holocaust, many Jews have emphasized the national role of Messiah. He must restore Israel politically, defend her against her enemies, and bring visible justice to the Jewish people who have suffered millennia of displacement, pogroms, and wars. But in the modern era, with the State of Israel reborn in 1948, some Jewish thinkers wonder if the Messiah's role has shifted. Perhaps his task is not only to redeem Israel, but also to bring reconciliation between Israel and the nations, to heal the fractured world, and usher in the shalom, peace, promised. In Isaiah 2, where swords are beaten into plowshares and nations no longer learn war, this universal vision has influenced interfaith dialogue, with rabbis acknowledging that the Gentile fascination with Jesus reflects a deep hunger for the Messiah that Judaism has always held, but guarded tightly within its own heritage, while Christians argue that the Jewish Messiah was always meant for the nations, pointing to Psalm 2:8, where God promises the Messiah, the nations, as his inheritance. And so the difference lies not just in who the Messiah is, but for whom he comes. For Israel alone, or for the entire world. And here lies the heart of the conflict between Jewish and Christian messianic hope. For if he is only for Israel, then Christianity has missed the mark. But if he is for all nations, then the Jewish rejection of Jesus leaves an open, aching question. And the modern rise of global conflict centered in the Middle East only intensifies this tension, with Jews waiting for a king to restore Israel fully, and Christians waiting for Christ to return and rule the nations from Jerusalem, and the entire world. Whether it realizes it or not, stands in the balance of that prophetic debate. Today, one that defines not just theology, but history itself. When we step into rabbinic writings, the Talmud, Midrash, and later Jewish commentaries, we find a fascinating mosaic of ideas about Moshiach, not as a vague spiritual force, but as a real man chosen by God, someone who will walk among the people, lead Israel, and fulfill prophecies that have been hanging in the air since Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Daniel first spoke them. Rabbis teach that Moshiach will not be divine in the Christian sense, but fully human, though uniquely anointed and empowered by
That's not true, because the Christian sense is that Christians believe that Jesus was 100% divine and 100% human, so that's not true right there.
First spoke them. Rabbis teach that Moshiach will not be divine in the Christian sense, but fully human, though uniquely anointed and empowered by God, descended from the line of King David through Solomon, and possessing unmatched wisdom, courage, and spiritual purity, which means he will not only restore Israel politically, but will also reform her spiritually, calling the Jewish people back to Torah observance in its fullest form, even restoring sacrificial worship in a rebuilt temple.
Even restoring sacrificial worship in a third temple. Very important.
Reform her spiritually, calling the Jewish people back to Torah observance in its fullest form, even restoring sacrificial worship in a rebuilt temple. A vision that shocks many Christians, who see in this a foreshadowing of end-time prophecies in 2 Thessalonians about the man of sin exalting himself in the temple of God.
It's the Antichrist. That's what he's talking about.
About the man of sin exalting himself in the temple of God. Yet in Jewish expectation, this is not deception, but redemption. Because for them, the Messiah's legitimacy will be confirmed precisely through these acts. Rebuilding the temple, gathering the exiles, defeating Israel's enemies, and establishing an era of shalom, unlike anything the world has seen. Rabbinic texts even go further, describing Moshiach as a judge of the nations, ruling with righteousness and breaking the pride of the wicked. Fulfilling passages like Psalm 2, where the Anointed One shatters the nations with a rod of iron, and Isaiah 11, where he slays the wicked with the breath of his lips. But even within Judaism, opinions differ. Some rabbis say Moshiach will come riding on a donkey if Israel is unworthy, or on the clouds of heaven if Israel merits it. A dual imagery that sounds almost identical to Daniel 7:13, where one like the Son of Man comes with the clouds of heaven, which Christians apply directly to Jesus. Others point to mysterious prophecies of a Messiah, son of Joseph, who would suffer or die.
So we're going to get back into this on Monday, and we're going to get into all of this. And I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.